Today is Paint with Melted Chocolate Day. Kidding. I wish. But people paint with coffee, right? Why not chocolate? I'm telling you, I'm on to something. Hi, it's Irene, and this is the 11th session where I swatch, mix, and create a painting featuring one color from the Mijello Mission Gold Pure Pigment set. Seriously, there's a whole playlist linked in the description. Go see for yourself. This is Dyke Brown, and the single pigment here is PBr7. This is a warm, dark brown. I understand PBr7 is often used for umbers and siennas, both raw and burnt forms. Its chemical name is iron oxide, or natural iron oxide. Look, I'm not a pigment master. I don't always know what to expect. Going in, my mixing expectations were low. I counted on this being a neutralizer, and that was about it. But I wanted to feature this color because I actually love it as is, without any mixing. So I was pleasantly surprised by the results. No, the mixes aren't particularly bright or vibrant, but I'm more about the deeper, darker shades anyway. And these are totally up my alley. That reminds me, there's a Guillermo del Toro movie on one of the streaming services called Nightmare Alley. It's from 2021 and based on the same source material as the 1940s version. I hadn't seen the older film, so the story was fresh to me. I'm a fan of Guillermo's work, so I'm familiar with how he uses color, but I was particularly struck by the presence of browns in this movie. After failing to properly share the mixing process in the last Mijello Journal session, I made a point to include that this time. It was a little awkward juggling the paint palette, the mixing palette, the brush, and the sketchbook, all while trying to keep the pertinent parts in frame. But you do what you gotta do. And if that means having to set the pumpkin spice cake down, then so be it. Okay, that array of delicious-looking browns is making my mouth water. I can't stop thinking about dripping honey, peanut brittle, salted caramel, maple syrup, apple cider, roasted coffee, hot cocoa, and spiced chai. Actually, the very reddish one reminds me of fresh chestnuts. Apparently, I managed to reach adulthood without real hands-on experience with those things, because one time, during an extended day trip, I encountered numerous spiky green pod-like objects on the ground. I was simultaneously intrigued and alarmed, a sort of, "Ooh, what is this mysterious fruit?" combined with, "Run! It's the invasion of the body snatchers." Imagine my delight upon discovering the gorgeous, glossy brown contents inside. My inner forager began gathering them up, stuffing all of my own pockets and some of my companions as well. Thankfully, I was quickly warned that those weren't the sweet-eaten chestnuts. No, they were horse chestnuts, which are toxic. I was crushed. There are vague memories of my mother cooking edible chestnuts at home. So vague, in fact, that I couldn't say if she boiled them or baked them. I do recall that I wasn't blown away by the flavor, but that's probably because they weren't dolled up with seasonings and sweeteners. Apparently, they have a pretty mild flavor on their own, but I'm totally up for trying some chestnut soup or spread or cake. I mean, pumpkin isn't great on its own, but you add enough spices and sugars, and voila, you've got ambrosia. For a Halloween time upload, the creep factor is pretty low this time. However, I insist there is a connection, and that connection is trick or treat candy. Because the painting portion features a yummy looking candy bar. So hang in there to see that part unfold. Who wouldn't want to get full-sized candy bars in their treat bags? Do you hand out candy? Do you hate candy? Do you hate trick-or-treaters? Talk about opening a can of worms. I can just see the flaming now. Tootsie Rolls are the goat. Nuh-uh. Tootsie Rolls suck. Earlier today, I watched the Goulet Pen Company guys, Brian and Drew, discuss their favorite and least favorite Halloween candies. There were some strong opinions, and I gotta say, I'm with Drew and his love for Reese's Pieces. I don't care for their plain chocolate bars, but in my opinion, Hershey definitely did a good thing with Reese's Pieces. I was kinda clumsy with the big swatch and heavy-handed with the layering. You'll notice shine in some spots. I believe that can happen when a couple of factors are at play. One, when applying thick paint layers, yes, but also, two, when the paint formula contains a lot of binder, such as gum arabic. On the topic of brown color palettes in movies, one that springs to mind is Jean-Pierre Junet's Delicatessen. Very warm and earthy. But back to Guillermo. I'm so excited about the new Netflix horror anthology series, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. I've already watched the first 2 episodes. Although I have mixed feelings about them, the atmosphere alone is fantastic. Nice and dark and creepy. It looks like there are 8 episodes in all, but I'm hoping we'll get more in future. Perhaps next October. Please, 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 please. I recently discovered a new-to-me artist, Tomas Hijo, and this is connected to Guillermo because Tomas Hijo did the artwork for a deck of tarot cards called Tarot del Toro. That name cracks me up. I love it. I've only seen it in videos, but the artwork is wonderful and contains many references to Guillermo's films. Interestingly, Tomas also designed the tarot deck prop in Guillermo's movie Nightmare Alley. I like his art style, and what he does is he carves his designs onto linoleum blocks, inks them, then uses a manual rolling press to make prints. It sounds fascinating and old school. Also, he states on his website that he uses Daniel Smith watercolors for his commissioned hand-colored prints. Lord of the Rings and Stranger Things are some other subjects he's worked with. Apparently, Van Dyke Brown is called Van Dyke Brown because it was used by the Flemish painter Anthony van Dyck, a Baroque artist from the 1600s. I tried to educate myself as to the exact location of Flanders and what the Flemish language really is, but while delving into that subject, my eyes started to cross real quick. So you're on your own there. I've been using this Mission Gold Pure Pigment watercolor set for a while now, and I've grown attached. Sure, they've got some quirks. such as the occasional confusing color name for one, but on the whole, I'd place these in the top tier of watercolors among Holbein, Daniel Smith, M. Graham, etc. When we purchased this set a couple of years ago, it was $140, and I felt that was a good deal, because that meant each 15 milliliter tube was only a little more than $4. I've just looked at the listings on Amazon, and this same set is currently $134. That's less than $4 a tube. But the kicker, the smaller 24 color set is currently available for $62. That's less than $2.60 per 15 milliliter tube. That's a crazy good price, and one I'm sure won't last for long. Let me see which colors are missing from the 24 color set. I made a list earlier today. Okay, so colors in the 34 set that are not in the 24 set are quinophthalone yellow light, quinacridone red, quinacridone crimson lake, burgundy red, ultramarine violet, indanthrene blue, cobalt cerulean blue deep, gold ochre, and cobalt black. There are a couple of colors in the 24 set that are not in the 34 set, though, and those are lemon yellow and ivory black. For reference, I used the color chart images included on the Amazon listings. As far as I can tell, those are accurate at this time. Of course, links are in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. So while Mijello Mission Gold are not a budget brand, at times there are deals to be found. That goes for other brands too. You gotta keep your eyes open. Usually it's producer Mike that spots the bargains while I'm oblivious. So, creepy movies revolving around chocolate, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, of course. Yes, I enjoy both versions. I've watched the first one so many times, so the newer one is kind of refreshing. They aren't part of my usual Halloween time viewing, but there's enough creep factor to make them spooky season appropriate. Plus, there's a chocolate river. Chocolate river. On the subject of chocolate, producer Mike and I have our favorites, and Lindt is one of them, especially their Lindor truffles. But on those occasions when we want to splurge a bit more, we get a box of See's candies. They have various assortments, but these days we're all about the truffles. The key lime and lemon are both delightfully tart, and the apple pie is a perfect fall-time morsel that's actually available all year. See's is headquartered in California, but we've got a local candy factory close by in Tacoma, Washington, and that's Brown and Haley, makers of that world-famous confection, Almond Roca. The company was founded there in 1912, and Almond Roca was created a decade later. Come to think of it, in 2023, Almond Roca will be 100 years old. But that isn't the only thing Brown and Haley produces. Their less famous mountain bars have nearly as long a history, but a more local following. Of the three flavors available, vanilla, peanut butter, and cherry, peanut butter is my favorite, and also the best-selling version in Western Washington. This all reminds me of 6th grade. It was probably like 1979 or 1980 maybe. Anyway, Both of the sixth grade classes at my school were expected to raise money to fund all of us spending a week at camp. I was a shy, quiet kid and wanted nothing to do with either selling things to strangers or sharing a cabin with 5 other kids. But I fell in line because I didn't think I had a choice. So I toted around those boxes of candy bars from door to door, block after block, and somehow encountered enough sympathy to meet the sales requirement. Thinking back, I wish I'd realized there were other options. I could have stood my ground and said, "No, you can't make me." I would have been spared numerous humiliations. Seriously, I couldn't imagine anything less introvert friendly than my sixth grade camp experience, and I have a pretty good imagination. That's right, there are 0 fond memories of Camp Week. From having to perform stupid skits, to rowboating while fearful of water, to showering communally, to failing every physical challenge. It was a horror story. But I managed to bounce back without becoming a serial killer, so all's well that ends well. I am not proud of my lettering there. Due to spacing miscalculations, I had to make changes on the fly, resulting in that. But I am pleased with the candy bar. At this point, there was still shading, highlighting, and additional line work to come. But once it was all done, those enhancements successfully made the piece pop. Okay, that's it. I hate to do it, but I need to pop a few mini-sized Milky Ways. In the meantime, have some music to accompany the edited painting process. I'll be back in a few minutes. I must admit, the deja vu was strong during this project. That's to be expected. I've gone through this process many times now, but I suddenly remembered I'd painted chocolates before. A luscious-looking box of See's candies. This was like a year before starting the channel. The reference image was from the See's catalog, and I believe I used Winsor & Newton's Cotman paints. The thing is, though, there was a feeling I'd done this particular color before. I don't know, weird. At one point, I was all set to launch into my childhood story about the melted chocolate bar face, but something held me back. That something being the certainty I'd shared that story before, twice even. I'm well aware that I've repeated myself on numerous occasions. I've no qualms about that. But 3 times would be too much. I mean, that would be like, again with the chocolate bar face. I can't take it anymore. Unsubscribe. So I try to be careful about that stuff. I'm happy to continue on with this series because I'm enjoying these watercolors, yeah, but also because it would be so cool to fill this sketchbook. It has about 24 sheets, and we're about halfway through now, so it'll only take another 2 years. That's doable. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, remember, brown is the most delicious food category. 'Nuff said. And stay artsy, my friends.